Yeah.
Corporate America is older white men.
Check your privilege.
I'm not gonna go there, Tyler. Like nobody questioned that, like that commercial, like those.
There was a lot of commercials at that time that nobody even questioned. I think it was like just the internet was obviously a thing, but it wasn't like as prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
As look what you specialize.
My brand.
My brand.
It's like I love commentary pieces, and I think that once you get into like the satirical commentaries, it's very funny. Like somebody was like, imagine that boardroom meeting where they're like, okay, we need a way to advertise contacts, and somebody's like, let's make a satirical more soap opera like scene and just like make it about contacts.
About 1-800-CONTACTS.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. Your company name is 1-800-CONTACTS.
Based off of the era of phones when you had to call in to get contacts.
Wow. It's not called bad lip reading, but you guys ever see like the literal interpretation of music videos? So they take songs and they satire them according to what's actually happening in the video, and like the videos have nothing to do with the songs.
I
have to watch this. All right, so the one that's sticking out to me, like as we're talking about it, like, you know, turn around every now and then. Yeah. That video makes no sense at all. So it's like, and girl walks through the window, turn around. Now I'm here with a chair and something. You gotta look that up on YouTube.
That's homework.
It's wonderful. Yeah, no, that's gonna be good. This is like a bunch of them. Like, oh yeah, dude. Yeah. Oh no.
Oh yeah,
this
great.
Might be like a new thing for me. Yeah, all right. Gonna see me on YouTube just.
Absolutely, that's the wormhole. Do you guys remember epic rap battles of history?
Of course,
yeah.
I remember when that's the prime is when they first started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was when it was like, and then they got, then they got like their budgets, and then it kind of got a little watered down after that.
Well,
I mean, if you got to produce, sometimes like once you get that money and you have to like produce content, it's
a
lot
more
pressure.
Yeah. No. It's also like everybody who gives you $1 is going to want to input on the final product. So like they're going to now that's the thing with television. Everybody talks trash about television producers, and everybody like, why can't they make the content that they have on the internet like on television? It's like when you have 20 people on top, like through the list of people who gave you the money, like every one of those people has to check off on the product that you just made. It's like, have fun trying to have a coherent piece of content that isn't just cookie cutter.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're absolutely right. You don't think about those kind of details when you're, especially like when you just don't know, and like you're just judging the show based off what it is, but you don't know all the details that go into it and how many people actually have to be satisfied. Mm-hmm. It's not just like one person that's gonna create what's in their mind. Like that's what it starts with, and then they edit the script, and then they edit the video. Everything just gets edits. So, well, the more you know.
Yeah, there's also not to take this concept and just make the whole show out of it, but I watch these guys on YouTube. They're like content creators, and they got a film deal, so they made a TV series called Lifeline, and they were talking about this like the concept of the guilds, like the unions in Hollywood. So they were like, we couldn't even touch a camera. Like, we were not part of the Recorders Guild or whatever it is, and they were like, we couldn't touch the camera. We couldn't set focus. We had to explain to everybody how to do everything, and it was like, so you can't see your vision.
I'm sure you saw Team America. Oh, yeah. The Film Actors Guild.
Yeah. The Film Actors Guild is a thing. I don't know the reference.
No, it's a Screen Actors Guild.
Oh, it's Screen Actors Guild?
They played on it, Film Actors Guild, and they would abbreviate it for all the Hollywood people.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, no, that show was, was borderline.
Yes, that was in a life long ago.
But nonetheless, small budget productions are a lot easier to make than large budget productions because of that stuff.
Yeah, the more money that gets involved, the more complicated things get.
Mm-hmm. And that's why we're here. Welcome everybody to THELife podcast.
Welcome.
We're here. We're not live, and I gotta set the timer. Praise.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Tyler sets the timer. Benji's here also, and I'm Eric.
Hello.
What time we at?
I don't know. Round it up.
I even saw you push the button.
Yeah, fair enough.
We're like 6 minutes in, I think.
Really?
I think so.
All right. Well, we'll run 10 minutes. Come on.
We're not on a budget. It's fine.
It's all right. But yeah, that was good. But yeah, no. As more money gets thrown into something, the more complicated things get, and it's like the famous rap song, "More money, more problems." I don't. That's not the name of the song, but
That's close enough.
it's a concept.
Interestingly enough, this also goes into like everyday life. You know, we talk about like, well, I'm not a film writer, so I know it doesn't make any difference to me. But like, a lot of people are like, oh, I want to be a boss, or I want to be my own boss, or I want to be like in charge of something like that. I'm a boss. Yeah.
I am a boss.
I'm a boss. But like, you have to understand that like the middle management has people to report to, and the CEO has people to report to. The CEO has to report to the board of directors, to the customers, to all of those people. The higher you go up on the list, really, the more bosses you get. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that a lot of people really understand that concept.
Yeah, and that's where things get a little bit choppy, especially when it comes to like artistic things. Mm-hmm. It gets annoying in like corporate America because you just want to like, this is definitely like the streamlined way. Most of the time it's like you see point A to point B, but they want you to like jump hoops and do all sorts of stuff to get to that point to meet whatever it is that they want to meet. Some people just want to feel important and just add stuff to the list just to say that they've had their input. Mm-hmm. But like in the creative world, it gets very extremely frustrating because you have a vision, you have whatever it is that was the original plan, and then now you have to sign off on from a bunch of people who probably don't even understand. You've never even talked to them face to face, and so they have no idea what your vision is, but they have a say in it, and that can be very frustrating in the creative world. So
well, with the creative world, sometimes it gets into the don't mess with the chili recipe or don't mess with the recipe in the soup, where it's all like, oh, I've made my money, like you have X producer who does pop or whatever. It's all like, I have this formula, like all pop songs are essentially the same song, just with different words.
Yeah.
And it's all like, I have this formula, we have this rhythm, we have this beat. This is how the song has to sound. Like we talk about cut it down to 305, which is like if you want to hit, you got to cut it down to 305.
Yeah.
It's all like there are like these quote unquote rules of music now that everybody's like, well, if your song doesn't fit into this set of circumstances, it's not going to be a hit, so I'm not going to give you the money for it. Yeah, and it kind of stumps creativity.
It really does. And it makes sense, it worked one time, so it's like you want to recreate the formula. And in a business sense, that makes a lot of sense. You don't want to reinvent the wheel when it comes to a business. You know what I mean? If a business does what you're doing right, you kind of just imitate it and make it work. But it's a little different in the world of creativity because people's wants change. Like the audience's wants, they don't want to see the same movie twice. You know what I mean?
I think it's really polar in the fact that you get a lot of people who don't want change and they want that recipe over and over again. It's like, oh, I fell in love with chicken nuggets. All I want to eat is chicken nuggets. And so you can have a large amount of success that way by the 305 same 4-chord progression. Yeah, call it a day. Just throw some new words on it, and here you go. Or you have to be that catalyst, like something like Bohemian Rhapsody. Just came out of the woodwork, came out of nowhere, followed none of the trends of the time. People were like, "This is gonna be a flop," but everybody loved it.
Absolutely. We talk about that all the time, where it's like the box. It's like everybody likes to stay in this box until somebody goes out of the box. We ridicule them for getting out of the box, and then they get successful.
And that becomes the new box.
Absolutely. They become successful. We just draw a box around them, and now that's where we are.
Yeah.
And that's like a tough thing to be in. And we have to understand that that's not just in a creative sense. That's in a lot of like business senses as well. Like, why is 1-800-CONTACTS still 1-800-CONTACTS? Because they're like, we've been in business for X amount of years. We've obviously been making money for this amount of time. Are we the largest company in the world? Absolutely not. But we pay the bills. So if I can pay the bills right now without changing anything, why should I take a risk at not paying my bills for a marginal return?
Changing your brand name or anything about your brand is so risky. It's even just changing your brand color. It could destroy you. And it costs a lot of money too, because then you have to change all your packaging over, especially a company like 1-800-CONTACTS, considering that they have to ship you your product. So they probably have like a ton of stock of like, pre-packaged boxes.
Oh yeah.
So they'd have to swap all of that out, and it would just cost a fortune to do, and there would be such a risk of like nobody would even recognize them. So it's just 1-800-CONTACTS.com.
And we were all kind of talking about that. We've been kind of rendering like the studio logos and the Life podcast logos.
Yeah.
As of late, and we're talking about if you do have a solid advertising concept though, or a solid logo, sometimes it doesn't matter what you do to it, as long as the concept is so solid that it's still recognizable. that's how you know you have something legit. Like we were talking about MTV through the 80s and 90s. It was like everybody knew what MTV's logo was, but they would, on every single show, every single day,
change, yeah.
would have it different. A different artist would do it. I mean, it'd be completely, if you stacked them up side by side, you'd be like, wow, these are all really weird and different. But when they stand alone, it's like, oh, I recognize that. That's MTV. That's
Yeah.
MTV. That's MTV.
Yeah, and that also comes with the benefit of exposure. Like MTV was pretty much in all of our lives when we were younger. So like, and they always had that logo on the screen whenever music video was on. So like, it kind of like there was so much exposure to that logo that it's like Google. You see it every day. You know what I mean? You could pretty much, as long as sometimes it doesn't even say the word Google.
Yeah, it's just the colors and a couple lines.
Some shapes and some weird stuff, and you know what it says. You know what I mean? Why? Because you're exposed to that every day. Most people that's their homepage.
Which straight up Google, we all know you're listening.
Yeah.
MTV did it first, and they did it way better.
Step it up.
Brand recognition is a big core concept where it's all like, if you can get somebody to, that's the hardest thing to do. Like, forget about the developing a product, forget about the thing. It's like, if you make a product, it will sell to someone that might be your grandmother, but it'll sell to somebody. It's having your brand be recognizable by the mass population. You think of McDonald's with the golden arches. That is a brand recognizable symbol.
The sign of civilization.
Absolutely, yeah. You see those golden arches on the highway, and you know life is there. But like, I think of Apple or think of Google's logos. You know, there are certain logos that like Skype, and all these different corporations. There are companies that just have been ingrained in culture.
Well, but you think of something now like Skype. Like Skype isn't super duper solid like that. They need to have the same colors. The font has to be the same. Or
You're
else
right.
You're not going to know what Skype.
You're right. Because they don't have that exposure that like MTV had or Google had. I think that being able to swap out that comes with exposure.
Well, some of it was built on the premise of the color, and it was built on the premise of the font.
Well, even the like with the MTV logos, they kind of like they had like a guideline kind of where you had to have like that cube set like style.
There you go.
You know what I mean? So you had to follow those kind of things
But
to
that
make
was-
it like somewhat recognizable. But they would like do some really cool stuff with it, where like it would be like little animals sometimes shaped like into the thing. It'd be pretty cool, really like. And
As long as the concept of the shape was there.
yeah, and you
Yeah.
knew what channel you were on. You know what I mean? You knew you were on MTV channel. So like whatever they
Is
put
this
down there-
VH1?
yeah, you would never question if it was VH1. You know?
Yeah, you can't go and change your logo every single day completely. Like, to have a completely different logo
Yeah.
every single day doesn't help you, because now you're just like this weird brand that doesn't have a brand. But like, it's like, okay, we have a silhouette. Like, let's say your silhouette is your brand, and you change, like VH1 had with their silhouettes. If they did like a different background on the thing, that's different. You know, MTV probably the same thing, where it's like, I don't really remember what you guys are talking. That was before my time, so I don't really remember it. But
yeah, it's like for you, for your generation, it'd be like the Google concept,
Yeah.
where
Yeah,
like you log into Google and then like that thing just changes, and sometimes it's like really cool stuff. Other times it's just like, well, I don't even know what that says, but I know it says Google. But it's that same concept where like you're at the Google homepage. And whatever is at that point, no matter what it actually could say or whatever, you know it's supposed to say Google.
Yeah.
And you just know that because you've been that's just a brand awareness that you have, and you know you're at Google.com. And that's a crazy place to be, and that takes time to get there, because you can't just come out of a gate as a new company and just start throwing a bunch of logos out there and expecting all of them to like, you can't do that Google thing like if just a starting company, because it won't be recognizable.
especially if you're a new guy on the block, like if you're a brand new company and you start swapping your logos out every month, you know, that looks bad from like a consumer standpoint, because you want to create associations in people's brains, and that's really what it boils down to is, okay, I want to associate this image with this concept in somebody's brain. And if you keep changing your logo every month or every episode, like we have the opportunity to change the cover art for each individual episode of the show. That's not a very efficient thing to do, because, you know, that just doesn't breed association. We want we want everybody to know that this is an episode of the Life podcast. So when we change the cover art, we'll change the cover art for the whole season.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And it's important to like, everything that a brand does, it's like a subconscious your consumers are subconsciously taking something out of it, and changing your logo or changing your brand consistently, it creates distrust in your in the people who are trying to trust you, because it's like you can't even stick to the same logo. How am I supposed to trust you with everything else? And it's crazy how much like what you do, even as a person, like beyond just like a company, like even as a person, every little thing you do subconsciously tells somebody something. And so you have to be consistent when it comes to brand awareness and building a brand. Consistency is key. And like on a smaller scale, like starting off building a brand, I don't know if this is what we want to talk about today, but we're building, I like the topic.
Yeah.
And building a brand, it's branching off so that everything that you do has a consistent platform. Like, you know, your website and your business cards and everything, even your resume, all consistently flows, so that if when they go from like section to section, because most people are going to go from your business card to your page and then to your resume if they're going to hire you. So if every one of those things look consistent, like in colors and like every like fonts and like, oh man, this person is legit, I can trust that this person knows what they're doing.
Well, consistency really breeds trust, and we have 1 second. Hear the ducks, and we will be right back. We can talk about that. Stay tuned.
To big extents to make sure that everything is brand quality. So like Apple spends an exuberant amount of money on the materials on the inside of their packaging, so that when you lift up the box, it comes out at a certain speed, and it's like it.
Yeah,
exactly. Basically,
there's some kid that like graduated from the same college as I did. He graduated well before me, but while I was still in school, I ended up watching. They brought him back and like asked him questions about his new company that he developed, and it was really like kind of. Like at first I was like, well, this is kind of weird, but as I started watching, this dude just has like a real passion for sandwiches. Okay, he just loves sandwiches. It is what it is.
Fair enough.
People have weird, like, I don't know, you like sandwiches, good for you. But
Yes.
so he sells T-shirts, and like he's got this company name on it, and when he's like, it's the brand product is when you order a shirt from him, he sends it to you like you're unpackaging a sandwich
With a sandwich stain already
that's
already pre-programmed on it.
It's like whatever the name of his company is, like something sandwich. I don't know what it is.
Fair enough, but
like that concept of the actual packaging is part of his brand. So when you open it, you're expected, like you feel like you're opening up something from the deli shop, and that was like. That made me think of it in a different way. And the same thing like you just said with Apple. Like it's the opening the product, the packaging part of it is a part of the brand. And you don't realize it, but it is.
So people get really, really weirded out when I say this. But products, especially nowadays, you're not just selling a product, you're selling an experience. And that experience starts at the store.
Yeah.
And it ends when you throw the thing away. And I don't think we call that cradle to grave. And that's the concept of like, okay, when the person first interacts with your brand, like let's use Apple as an example because they're really good at this. You walk into an Apple store, you start that experience right there. You see the wooden tables, you see the lights, they all look exactly the same. They're all clean cut. There's never anything on the floor.
Yep.
Like Apple makes certain that when you walk in the door, you have a great experience.
Yep.
And you pay for that.
And you walk in the store, you feel like you're walking, like it's an extended experience of what their technology is.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
It just the way you walk in, everything's white, bright, clean. It's like you see just the Apple logo in front of you. It's all very consistent. It's an extended experience of what their product is.
Absolutely. And it's like that's part of their brand. They put a lot of money and a lot of research effort into how does this affect the user's experience. And then you move on to, once you've purchased the product, now getting it home. Like the bags that they give you. The amount of money that they spend just on those bags is absurd. Like they put so much money and so much effort into each step of the process. It makes the brand.
Yeah. And it's super important to remember that you have to treat yourself the same way, and on a like as a personal brand, you like. I'm not saying you have to go create storefronts for yourself, no, but you have to be that consistent. Like what they're getting for your product, whatever it is that you're selling, you have to make sure that the experience that they experience face to face with you, or whatever they touch, whatever the touch points are, which is your website, business cards, whatever those are, your touch points that gets you customers, even your social media accounts. Having the same profile picture all the way across your consistent profile picture across your social media accounts, huge. They see the consistency starting at the beginning, and you have to show that same, what they're getting out of your product is what they're getting from you. And if it all lines up, that's what makes you authentic.
All right, roll that back though. You talk about it as like a business model. Okay, Eric, so I'm a listener now, and I don't have a business. I'm not thinking about starting a business. This isn't really about business. What do you mean?
So your dream job, whatever that is. Let's say you are, I don't know, you want to get into films, okay? And you really have always wanted to be on set. You don't want to own your own business. You just want to be on set. You want to be, you want to start as a hand, and you want to work your way up. All right. So there are thousands of people who want to take your position. Thousands. How do you stand out in this crowd? Well, let's say there's 1,000 people, and 500 of them are they just started. They just woke up today. They decided that today's the day that they want to start. You're miles ahead of them. Good for you. All right. So you got 500 people left in this crowd. Now, what makes you stand out between you and the person who's going to hire you when there's 500 people next to you that all, in their eyes, look the same? They all have the same experience. There's nothing different. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What makes you different? Why am I going to hire you? Well, what's going to separate you is that effort you put in behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. That effort you put into your personal branding. That we're going to call it personal branding. You can call it whatever. You can call it your reputation. You call it your digital reputation. I don't care. Whatever it is, you have to ensure that it's consistent. You have to decide, like, colors trigger things in people's minds. Like a blue makes you tired, or blue also makes you calm. You know, a color green reminds you of money. Purple reminds you of royalty. You know, what is it that you want to express of yourself? What is it that you already express? Find the right colors to pull that out of you. You know, you put that all into your concept. You have your resumes, your business cards, because I don't care who you are. I mean, you might not be a business owner, but you might want to have personal business cards if you want to get into something like your dream job. Mm-hmm. It shows professionalism. It shows that you care. And once you get to that point and somebody on the other side is sitting at the table across from you, well, there's 500 people, but only 20 of them have the most consistent brands. 20 of them, now you're in that top 10% of the 1,000 people that started, the top 5% essentially of the people who can possibly get picked. You know, that's you go from your chances of winning the lottery to your chance of actually getting a scholarship. Anyone can get a scholarship. Not everyone wins the lottery. Mm-hmm. So you kind of really improve your chances of that person across from you to actually take you seriously, because like they take their position seriously. That person across from you has a personal brand. That person across from you has business cards, has everything going on. And so they're looking for that in you. Have you taken the time to take yourself seriously? Mm-hmm. And that's where, like, I think that's where it's important to understand, like, personal branding, yes, it could be for your business. It could be for your personal life. It's 2019. Everything is exposed to the public. Everything, like your social media accounts. I mean, even if you leave it private, there are things that still get out there between people tagging you and other people taking pictures of you, and they see you in these places. People can get a concept of who you are without you really wanting them to.
And I think that's a perfect point for a second to stop and grab something from the show notes. We had this show note that I actually contributed. It says, personality will get you into that open door, and character is what keeps that door open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because it's also very important to realize that jobs are not for the individual. Jobs are for the corporation. A lot of people come into, and I've noticed this in a lot of different positions that I've worked in, where somebody comes in and they want to get hired, and their like pitch is like, "Oh, this will be a great job for me. I'll really be motivated in this job." And it's like, okay, like, that's great. I'm really glad that you want to have this job for personal, gain. But what are you going to do for the corporation? Mm-hmm. What are you going to bring to the table? And that's really what this personal brand is as well, where it's like, yes, at the end of the day, you want a paycheck. Everybody wants a paycheck so they can do the things that they really care about. You don't have to like genuinely like adore your job, as long as you can prove to the employer that you can generate more income than you cost. Mm-hmm. You're perfectly fine. That's what a lot of people miss, where it's like, that's part of your brand.
Yeah.
What can I do for you?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to come into an interview, and you have to come into like a situation like that, or our current job. If you don't like your job, or you don't like your managers and things like that, evaluate yourself and see if you're actually generating income for the corporation, because that's usually what puts the most stress on people. Is this person isn't generating income, so I have no reason to keep you here. Mm-hmm. That's a brand item.
Yeah, absolutely. And something as simple as like making customized resumes for the places that you want to apply to. You know what I mean? We'll use Walmart. If you want to work at Walmart and on your resume to be like a manager at Walmart, right? You're walking in off the street and on your resume you have like a Walmart logo on the top of your resume. It just shows that you care and that, like, this is like.
See there, you'll get sued.
No, they won't sue you for that because you won't be making income. So you could use that. You could just literally put that on the top. It'll say like Eric Carrero, and then you can have like the Walmart logo on the other side. And just having that, they'll look at it like you'll probably be the only person that did that. You know what I mean? And they'll look at that like, wow, you took the extra step. And now everything you put in there is relevant to that job. You know, you're not going to put in there like I went to, I don't know, I worked at McDonald's for like, you don't need to put that stuff in there, like your first jobs. Put everything in that resume that's actually relevant to the job that you're applying to. That and obviously if you need the qualifications, they're not going to hire you because you put a logo on there. Yeah. But you have all the qualifications and stuff, you'll outshine everyone around you.
Interestingly enough, since we're talking about applying for jobs, never apply. So I say never, but try not to apply for slam dunk jobs. What we call like, okay, you meet every single qualification and more. It's not really healthy to apply for those jobs because a lot of employers will look at people who can slam dunk a job and say, this person's going to be here for 6 months and then they're going to leave, so I'm not going to hire this person. So if you're applying to jobs and you're like, I'm way overqualified for this position, why won't anybody hire me? It's because you have no reason to stay.
Right. It's because they know it.
Yeah, exactly. So like it's
that's a good point.
Specifically for software, they've always taught us if you see something that you're not like, because usually software jobs are boilerplate where they're like, okay, senior engineer, here's the stuff that you need to know, and it's like this has nothing to do with anything that is relevant, but whatever. You always apply to jobs that are higher than what you do because the company will be okay with you growing into that position. Yeah. It's just you have to show that you have the ability to learn and you have the ability to improve yourself to fit the position that they want you to fit.
Right. And you have the transparent character to be able to keep that and be like, oh, well, you know what? This guy's going to be a positive contribution to the workplace. Yeah. Oh, look at this guy. He looks like he leads a decent life. Oh, when I talk to him, I can take whatever he says at face value. He doesn't come in one day fine, the next day with like an eye tattoo. It's like, oh, like
high tide, low tide, we call that.
Okay.
Yeah, fair enough. But that's a huge point is like you can't have your brand say something like you can't have like, oh, I want my brand to be this, but you're a completely like it needs to flow with your like it needs to be authentic with who you are. Like your character is going to shine through at the end of the day.
Well,
like,
it's that consistency of product, and that's really what like brand shows. It's like, okay, oh, this has a McDonald's logo on it. I know I've come to expect this level of quality from McDonald's. It's like, oh, us as people, we are brands. I feel like we've mentioned that in the show already. Like our name is our brand. Our name is our reputation. And people want to say like, oh, when I see Eric, I expect. I mean, as we said, like obviously you'll get disappointed if you have certain expectations for people, but in the world that we live in, we set them there. It's like, okay, well, you always excel at this level of whatever, at this consistency. This is what I've come to expect from Eric, so I know that I can get this from Eric, so I'm going to ask Eric. Or
yeah, this is a big buzzword in California right now for software. Is company culture. They're really big on this concept of like, okay, if you apply, you can be the perfect applicant, but if you don't fit the company culture, they're not going to hire you because the company culture has an image. The company itself has an image, and the people who work there have an image. And if you come in and you try to disrupt that image, you're not going to be beneficial to the corporation as a whole. And they're very, very they understand that concept, and we should understand that concept too. Where it's like you can get really buzzwordy about it, where you're like, "Oh, this doesn't fit company culture," but you know, taking that to the macro level and saying, "Okay, what is my effect on the people around me? What is my effect on my corporation? And how do I utilize that, leverage that to get further positions?"
I want to touch back on what Tyler said. Like you are a product, you know what I mean? As you are the product, you know, especially in personal branding, you are the product. So all the stuff that you do, your website, your business cards, all that extra stuff, that's the packaging. At the end of the day, that's the packaging. And I used this analogy the other day, and I was like, you could have the best cookie in the world, like the best cookie in the world. But if it's not in a package and it's just sitting on the shelf at the store, no one's going to buy it. They're going to buy the stuff that's actually in a package. It's going to be nasty if it's just sitting there, and no one's going to, they could be the best cookie you've ever made, like, and no one's going to try it. They're not going to risk it because you didn't even take the time to put it in a box. you have to take care of those things. You have to get the package right.
It's also your environment. Your outward facing image has to be reflective of the environment itself, because we say the nail that sticks up gets hammered down. If everybody's in a box, there's ways to do it that make you stand out, but you can't go and be radical until you have a foothold.
Right.
Yeah.
Complete side note, I love tattoos, but good luck trying to get a job with like a neck tattoo.
Oh, that's a big thing now too. Well, it depends on the job,
there's a lot more acceptance going around, but like even though for the most part, like the really high level positions, they don't want that as their image. They have an image that they want to uphold as a company.
Neck tattoo maybe should be fine, but like face tattoos,
yeah,
if you look like a SoundCloud rapper, good luck getting a job almost anywhere.
Absolutely. It's like if you're a specific, I can only speak with software engineering and office culture. If I had a tattoo on my neck or on my face,
on your face, the face is the real controversial.
No one, yeah. If I had a tattoo on my face, there would be no person who would hire me in my field.
Yeah,
like because there's a level to what you can achieve. You can't talk to customers. No company's going to say, like, let's say I work for
you're not the face of that company.
You're not going to be a customer-facing individual. You can be internal, but then internal only has a certain level that you can get. Like, the board of directors is internal.
If you get a face tattoo, if you're thinking about it, I mean, it's your life.
This is real life advice. But like, this is the time that we live in.
Yeah, you have to understand that you are compromising. You know what I mean? You get the face tattoo now, you're pretty much saying that I don't want to move it up, like Benji was saying, that you get to a certain level before they're like, we can't make you a contact point. We can't let our customers, unfortunately, we can't let them see you because you don't look like what we want to look like. You don't look like the Apple product.
Right.
You know what I mean? So no, you're not going to be an Apple genius in the stores because you don't look the part. And it's like, okay, then you're stereotyping and you can't do that because you have to equality and you have to hire based off of that, like these rights that protect everybody. Absolutely. But when there's applicants
they'll take
surrounding around you, they can pick what the best option is to them.
They'll pick anybody else.
They'll pick anybody else. Absolutely. And that's really important to, you're taking a risk by doing that. And if that's the life you want to live, the ducks are here.
So stay tuned.
Is capable to be an outward-looking individual or an outward-facing individual, as opposed to somebody who is going to always be stuck in an internal position. I'm going to hire somebody who's outward-facing. This is a big issue with software engineering now, that all of the old dudes aren't getting jobs.
Yeah.
Because they're like, why am I? I'm way qualified for these positions. I'm qualified for senior positions, but now the companies are like, oh, there are these guys out of college who have doctorate degrees who can be senior engineers, who can be board directors, and they charge a lot less than you charge.
Yeah.
So it's like, a company's gonna try to find a reason not to hire you, and you have to give them the least amount of reasons possible, and hopefully you'll be the one with the least amount of negative points on your scoreboard by the time they have to hire somebody.
And just to make this clear, because we're talking about this, in no way we're casting or putting any kind of judgment on anybody as far as looks and appearance.
One of my closest friends has a face tattoo.
Absolutely, it is what it is. if you've ever met me in person, I am one of the most punk rock, anti-establishment man kind of person. When it comes to I hate the outward experience. The outward appearance, it doesn't really matter as long as you're genuine and you're real. It's not like that. So we're not saying don't get a face tattoo because it's not cool and corporate America is not going to hire you. Stick it to the man and get that face tattoo. We're just saying that
it's a stigma,
right? In this world that we live in, that's a choice that you can't get back when you tattoo your face. And there are a lot of people be like, oh, nobody should judge me and we should have equal equality and all of these things that we say in theory, but people will judge you by the tattoos that you have on your face.
Absolutely. And you're not really worried about the people in the supermarket. You don't really care about those people. But
I don't care about people's opinions.
Yeah, but you have to understand that when you make certain decisions, no matter what they are, they have consequences. And some consequences are these stigmas that come with it, where they see you and they they're gonna judge you. And it's unfortunate that we're still in this place where we still are visually judging people, but that's just what it is.
That's the world. That will never ever change.
You can't change that ever. And and that's just it's tough to say, but you have to kind of like work with the rules. There are some rules you can bend, absolutely, but there are some rules that we're just not at the point of bending yet. And if you want to be one of those rebels and want to be a rule bender, then you have to understand you're taking this risk.
That's really what it is.
Yeah, and you're exactly. And if it doesn't work out the way I'm gonna fight the man, like, go for it. But you have to understand that it could limit you in more ways than one. And if that's the risk you're willing to take.
We were talking about it with the face tattoo. Really, like, the only chance of success that you really do have once you start tattooing your face is like, I gotta be a SoundCloud rapper. Like, I gotta get into this rap game, or else I ain't gonna make it.
That's an image thing too. Like some industries, we'll call it, they require a certain image, and you have to look at the certain part. And if you're sold on like, this is my job and this is what I'm gonna do and I'm gonna make money and this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life, then maybe the face tattoo is gonna make that personal brand that you're trying to build what you want it to be.
Well, that can get added on the end. That's like adding salt to a recipe. It's like you can always add more salt, but you can never take it away. Like if you were trying to get this record deal, you're trying to get this record label, and the record label comes to you and is like, you were awesome. The only thing we need you to do to be able to sign you and give you this like $1 million check, like right off the lot, go get like an upside down cross tattooed on your cheek, and you like,
Jesus,
go ahead. But that's legit. Come on. I'm just talking the truth.
I just want to be a part of that conversation, just to be like a fly on the wall to hear the A&R rep say, "We'll give you this deal if
you got to fit the image."
You got to go get a tattoo right now. I'll go with you.
The thing is like that's an image thing, like
very
you guys
extreme
have been saying. But it's also like those images change with the times, you know. And it's like, I'm sorry, I have a really weird stance on tattoos, and I think that most of them are fine. It's just like, have you ever seen a picture of Post Malone in a suit? It's just so weird. It's like, and the guy is an interesting individual, but he has all these face tattoos, and then it's like formal from the neck down, and it's like, this is just a really weird, like, jarring thing to look at. And if you're a corporate entity, that's not your brand, and you're like, no, that's not happening in a boardroom, because nobody's going to be able to pay attention to anything that we're talking about.
Yeah, and you take a look at like Post Malone and all these other interesting names. It is what it is. But they take this rebellious stance, and that's what their brands are. It's like rebellion.
It kind of looks like that rap now, or whatever you would call that music now, is like the anti-establishment grunge of the 90s. It's like, okay, well, we had this polished hair metal for so long, and then it's like, okay, well, we don't want the polish anymore. Get it as dirty and smelly and disheveled as possible.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's the same, but I mean, it's definitely similar. Of like, it's just like this really dirty version of.
Yep, people were tired of the polish.
Yeah, and exactly, and when you think about it like that, it's like history repeats itself.
Yep, that's exactly what it was. It was just redone in a different genre.
Yeah,
and the thing is like, there are different groups of individuals who make different industries, but corporate America has always been and is still, and they try to play it off like, oh no, we're very inclusive. And let's be real, as 3 white men, corporate America is older white men.
Check your privilege.
I'm not gonna go there, Tyler, but like let's be real. Like, the boards of companies are really trying to change this, but like, you look at the CEOs of the biggest companies in the world. We got Bill Gates, we got Warren Buffett, we got Tim Cook, Steve Jobs, who passed away. We have the CEO of Google, I forget his name. These are all like white men. Like, it's like, I mean, we have to point it out. If you're gonna have like a face tattoo, corporate America is not going to be okay with that. Yeah. And you just have to be aware of that going into it. We have to play with the cards we're dealt. And if we're going to start making lifelong choices that can't be undone, we have to understand that, okay, I can get a face tattoo. Yes, absolutely. Go right ahead. If you want to get a face tattoo, you're perfectly able to do that. Be aware that certain doors are going to close.
I don't think I see the thing that you're saying, but like, as far as corporate America and it being like all like older white men, I think regardless of being like, like white or black or anything like that, there's just a certain level of values that are held at the top echelon of corporate America to be able to walk into those doors at that higher level. It requires a certain skill set and level of shared values with them to be able to swim at that part of the pool.
It's a fan club. It's like it's a little club.
I mean, I guess what we're trying to say is don't let instant gratification make a long-term decision in your life. You know what I mean? If you just want to do this because all your friends are doing it, just understand that, you know, you're going to be locking yourself in to a certain...
Is that friend group the key to your success is really what it is? And will you still feel like this in 10 years, in 5 years, in 6 months? Things change. I've had a lot of opinions, and people say that all the time. I mean, if we started talking to people who are 40 and 50, do you feel the same way you do about certain things at 28? They'd be like, no, I'm completely different.
Yeah.
My parents and I have this saying that says, "I'll know a lot. We'll know a lot more in a year from now."
Yep.
And it's all like, you look back a year ago today. What didn't you know about where you are right now? So much stuff has changed in 1 year for just the three of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like there's so many things that can happen.
Even your friend group. I mean, I plan on keep having you guys around for the rest of my life. But it's the same of how many friend groups have you walked in and out of in your entire life? I mean, I had wonderful friends growing up, and Eric and we talk about it all the time. I had the best of the best of the best of friends, and eventually some things happen that we can't plan, that are out of our control. Everybody pulls for them, and you walk out of those friend groups and you come into new ones.
Yeah. So you have to remember that life changes, and life's going to keep on changing. Nothing stays the same. This is what life is about. It's about change and adapting and growing. And so unless something happens in the next 10 years that really makes face tattoos as a qualification for a job,
it boils down to you have to pick your battles. Yes, I understand the concept. You want to be anti-establishment. You want to just express yourself. That's wonderful. And I agree with that concept. It's just sometimes you have to understand that banging your head against the wall is counterproductive. Yeah. It's like, you want to break down the wall. There are better ways to do this.
You need to get a tattoo, get a butt tattoo.
Sure. I think that this is a very complex topic, because it's like, okay, I understand the concept of self-expression. I understand the concept of I want to do what I want to do, and the corporate side of America shouldn't judge me based off of my outward appearance. They should judge me based off of the things that I can do. Yep. But a lot of people disregard the concept of you have to have a not a pedigree, but like a good outward facing appearance for the entity itself to trust you enough to do other things for them.
Right. And in the world that we live in at 2019 right now, face tattoos are still controversial. I mean, I'm sure you can get a super good corporate job. You could be tattooed. You could have full sleeves. As long as you can have a suit jacket that covers those sleeves, even if people see it a little bit and it's like on your hands, I'm sure there's still a way. Like there's a level of forgiveness for those decisions or whoever you were.
Yeah.
But when it comes to things like face tattoos and unremovable grills and things like that, it's like... I don't know if you'll be able to.
You're setting a cap for yourself.
That's it.
It's
don't
not,
put yourself in a box.
That's what it is. It's not even like if we get rid of all of the formalities and everything. Like, this is how it is. It's not necessarily totally accepted yet. So you're making a box for yourself.
Yep.
And the whole point of our like upward mobility is to minimize the number of boxes we put ourselves in. It's like if you have this deficiency that you don't understand this topic, you learn the topic. That gets rid of that box. By putting a tattoo on your face or doing anything extreme body modification, like we haven't even talked about all of like the extreme piercings or whatever like that.
Like huge gauges and stuff.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly. It's like like what do you do? Like
it gets tougher.
It's one of those things where it's like it's equivalent of like, you know, we talk about like building your brand and all this stuff, and like this is you are a representative of your brand. When people see you, that's your brand. But it's like I heard somebody once when I was out in Florida, I had a couple conversations, and this gentleman that I really look up to met with a lot of different people that week, and he brought it up to like our attention. He's like, some of y'all smell bad. Yeah. Like that's a bad brand look. Like you smell bad. I don't want to talk to you. And that's really what it is. Like putting something on your face like that, or just not dressing the way you want to dress. Like you are setting, like, I'm sorry they're judging you, but if you smell bad, like if you can't take care of your hygiene, if you can't take care of like the small things in your life, what makes you think I'm going to want to hire you, or even want to talk to you for more than 30 seconds?
Yeah.
And that's important to remember. Like everything you do is directly affected to your reputation. Your reputation is a word that's interchangeable with the brand.
Yep.
It's
hold on. Before you were talking about being like fluid and everything and being able to roll with the punches. If you're certain that you're certain that you're certain, everybody's looking for consistency. We're not saying for you to be so how do I say it? Like so neutral that you can flow into anything and everywhere.
Yeah,
you're you. Whatever you produce as consistent, and that is who you are, and that's who you want to be in the future, that's what you're to build on. Mm-hmm. I'm not looking to impress everybody. I'm not looking to fit in with every group or crowd. I'm not looking to go with any kind of trend whatsoever.
Yeah.
But as long as I'm me, and this is what you get at face value, everything that I have is out in the light for everybody to see. And I don't have to cover anything up or hide it. I mean, everybody has their flaws, especially if you're open with your flaws and who you are. It's like, here it is. We talked about character really early on in the show. It's like, even if you are a giant scumbag, but you are so open that I am just a hot pile of trash and this is who I am, this is what you get, people will respect that. And they will take that at face value and be like, I know who you are. I'll take it anyway.
Absolutely. And I'd like to make it very clear that we're not taking a moral standpoint on any of this. We're saying that these instant gratification choices have direct effects on certain things in our lives.
Yes, have
it's
long-term effects, yeah.
Long-term lasting effects. It's not like, oh, you should all get face tattoos, or, oh, nobody should get face tattoos. This is a decision that can't be undone. Or can't be undone easily. This has a long-lasting effect on your path in your life. Now, we have to take those things into consideration in the same way that we have to take into consideration where we move. If I go and live in the middle of Serbia, I've taken that I've taken that decision into effect of the rest of my life. That's going to affect the rest of my life in a lot of major ways. Yeah. It's the same thing with a face tattoo. It's the same thing with anything that we do in our lives.
Yeah. And just to wrap this up, I want to make it clear that just because, especially when it comes to personal branding, just because you have it set does not mean it's not going to change. You have to adapt. Yes. Your personal brand is going to grow with you.
Everybody grows. Everything grows. The best artists, they grow. Yeah. If you look at people who make music, usually like you have a career. Oh, these 3 albums were kind of the same and it was really good, but then they had to shift because they were all a little different. And then it's like, oh well, I either love them or I hate them.
Yeah. So it's important to remember that. Don't let your own brand put you in a box. It's something that you develop and grow over time. It's not something that you're going to set up in one day and you're going to be completely satisfied with. But just start getting something and then do tweaks here and there until it gets to a point where you're really satisfied with it.
Absolutely. And just really quickly, also don't conform your brand to the will of other people. It's also important to be happy with what your brand as a whole. The ducks are here, but the concept that like it's okay to have a non-conformative brand as long as you own that non-conformative brand and you're happy with the trajectory that it's giving you. Yep. You have to change what you don't like and keep what you like, but also take those changes into consideration when you're looking at the long-term effects of your changes today.
Absolutely.
That's it. So we'll see you next episode.
Thank you for listening to the Life Podcast Show. We really appreciate all your support. We meet every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning just to talk and share our perspectives on everyday life situations. If you haven't already, please share this with your friends and give them a chance to join the conversation. Also, if you liked what you heard today, rate our podcast. The higher the rating, the longer we can keep this going. And a special thanks to our future sponsors that will soon partner with us on this journey. If anyone would like to contact us, please email us at thelifepodcastshow@gmail.com. One word. That's thelifepodcastshow@gmail.com. Be blessed and have a wonderful day.